Assalamu alaikum. Good to have you all here this evening, ladies. I'm Faria, known on Instagram as the Healthful Wellness Coach. I'm a certified health and wellness coach. And this is our usual Saturday evening slot where we discuss everything health related to mums and children mainly. The last couple of weeks, we've been looking at Unani Tibb with Ruqayya, who is our expert in that field. Allahumma barik alayha. So I will get her to jump on and introduce herself.
Yes, assalamu alaikum, ladies. As you already know, I am training in naturopathic nutrition and medicine, and I've been doing it for, I've been doing this for a few years now, and it's all about formal naturopathic, it's formal holistic medicine, and its focus is on dealing with the body as a whole, as opposed to focusing on one symptom or one part of the body. And it's a whole life, it's like a lifestyle, through this lifestyle, through adapting your lifestyle. Yep. Okay. All right. Really as close as possible. Has it changed?
Ladies, if your sound is not clear when Ruqayya is speaking, please feel free to let us know. Either put it in the chat or let us know. Sorry, Ruqayya, did I just mute you there? Do let us know if your sound isn't clear. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala, we are recording it and inshallah it should hopefully be a lot clearer. Sorry, go ahead, Ruqayya, just introduce yourself again. I do apologize.
Yes. Okay, inshallah. So yes, I was just talking about some focuses on healing the body holistically, as opposed to focusing on one part of the body. And it deals with balancing the bodily constitution. And it is believed that every single individual, whether you have the same disease or not, if two people have the same health problem, we deal with each situation or each illness separately, and then we try to rebalance each individual differently, because each person may have a different constitution. So it's generally focuses on balancing the equilibrium of the individual and trying to take the body back to its original temperament. That's why we've been focusing on temperament as past to Zoom and Clubhouse lessons. So yeah, I'm currently working in that medicine field and also doing natural nutrition. So I deal with health clients who have dietary requirements that they may not be reaching. They might have health issues that are due to long-term nutrient deficiencies, which turn into illnesses. And there are many forms that are surprisingly that we see in clinics, surprisingly, that certain people have health issues that are due to deficiency in a certain nutrient, vitamin, or that the actual nutrient or the vitamin within their body is not going to the right places. And we see this in many people. For example, we see that people that have issues with the arteries, with thrombosis, things similar to that could be simply as a calcium deposits on the arteries, causing all of these health issues. And so we deal with trying to move and take the nutrients where they need to be. And that's the nutritional side of things. And we also combine it with our medicine, and we try to add this energetic part of food and health, and really focus on giving and advising people the foods that support their body and balance their temperament.
Okay, Allahumma barik. I just wanted to actually give a quick recap just for everyone who might have missed the last couple of sessions, just to kind of summarize what we've covered, inshallah. You are able to listen to the recordings, as I mentioned earlier, on my YouTube channel, Organic All Round. All the recordings that we upload that we have on these Saturday evenings will be available there, inshallah. There's a couple that we haven't uploaded yet, in fact, but usually the lessons that we have on Clubhouse and on this Zoom session will be there. Right, so the main thing about Unani Tibb that we were looking at said, you know, that there are 4 elements in the body, right? Okay, so there are the earth, which is considered to be cold and dry. And Ruqayya, please feel free to correct me at any point, inshallah. Water, which is considered to be cold and moist. Then there was air, which was considered to be hot and moist, and fire, which is hot and dry. Now, so these are 4 biological humors, okay, that that mainly you have one that is more dominant, right? Everyone has one that is quite specific to them. So, and the way that they describe these are the blood, which is hot and moist, also known as the sanguine, right? Then you have yellow bile, which is hot and dry. Then there was the black bile, which is cold and dry. And then the phlegmatic, which is cold and moist. Okay, so everyone will have, maybe you might have, you know, some of one and some of another, but there will always be one that is more dominant in you. Okay, and to achieve optimal health, the whole connotation around Unani Tibb is to have these balance, because when they're balanced, then inshallah you have good health, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Okay, so there were certain characteristics that Ruqayya mentioned that kind of help you understand which category or which temperament you may fall into. And she said that you know, some of these are just general signs, and you know, there are many things that a practitioner will look at. I mean, just even down to things like the way you speak, the way you enter the room, just the way you hold yourself. I mean, there's so many things to actually put, you know, diagnose you into one of these temperaments. But we just kind of went through a general kind of idea, and I just want to break that down to many of you who may have missed those sessions. So there's the blood type, right? The sanguine, which is the hot and moist temperament, right? So this person generally has a lot of blood flowing through their body. They're usually quite tall, strong-boned, muscular, not overweight, okay, but more meaty, right? They may have a broad chest, well-formed joints, and a reddish undertone, okay? And she mentioned, you know, obviously this doesn't mean looking at one sort of ethnic group will automatically be in that category. It's just a tone under the skin, right? They will have usually a rapid pulse, full veins. So like, you know, when, I don't know if you've ever had to have blood taken, and you know how some people, it's very easy for the person taking the blood to find their veins and, you know, done. For some people, it's really difficult to actually find that vein and, you know, get the blood out. So the person who is hot and moist in temperament usually have full veins. Okay, they usually have dark hair, which is straight and thick. Okay, now they tend to have a heaviness in their body, and they tend to get headaches, usually at the back of the eyes, but they do tend to sleep well, and they enjoy having a good amount of sleep. These sorts of people, they get angry quickly, but they also forgive easily. Okay, so these are kind of characteristics of this kind of person. So they're a people person, sociable, friendly, this kind of thing. Now, when they have too much of their temperament, okay, when it becomes an excess in them, right, this is when they might experience conditions like high blood pressure, frequent fevers, bloody diarrhea, boils, nosebleeds. They might have heavy periods, and they will have a type of eczema that weeps. You know, you have an eczema where the skin is quite dry, and you might have people who experience eczema where their skin is weepy, you know, so it just leaks blood or fluid or this kind of thing. So this group of people who are hot and moist will have the weepy type of eczema if one of their temperaments goes off and they have an excess of it, right? So the second group were the yellow bile, okay? So this group is considered hot and dry. They usually have a physical stature is like medium height, right? They may have a lot of hair on their chest, okay, in a male. And if it's a female, the parts where the female does have hair will be a lot. They're considered to be usually on the thin or slim side, have yellow undertone. A lot of South Asians kind of fall into this category. Remember, this is very general. They have thick curly hair, less straight, more wavy kind of thing. They have prominent veins, but not as much as the first category. They have a narrow pulse, okay? They usually sleep less. They're quite a light sleeper. So maybe they only require 6 hours of sleep. And if they overdo it, they tend to feel unwell, right? They tend to eat well. Now, this group, which are hot and dry, right? They also get angered easily, okay? You know, they have that fiery tendency. But in comparison to the other group who tend to forgive easily, the person who's hot and dry will tend to have a revengeful kind of characteristics, right? They don't forget, they would hold grudges, right? In saying that, they're quite energetic. And Ruqayya mentioned a lot of leaders, like even, you know, world leaders, they tend to fall into this category, right? Now, when their temperament goes into excessive, like too much heat and too much dryness in their body, they also tend to experience fevers, ulcers. They have a general body of feeling weakness, right? They get like achy bones. They might experience jaundice, conjunctivitis, and loose bowel movements, right? Okay, so now then we went on to the cold, moist person, right? So you have hot and moist, hot and dry. Now we're on cold and moist. Now this person, a phlegmatic temperament, would tend to be slightly overweight, okay? A lot of flab, okay? That kind of thing. And when you touch them, their skin is really soft, jelly-like, right? Remember, they're cold and moist, like water, Ruqayya mentioned. Usually flat, kind of chested, a whitish undertone, almost pale. They tend to have thin, straight hair, maybe with some lightness in their hair. They don't have prominent veins, okay? Their movements tend to be soft and slow, sluggish in terms of memory retention. And they tend to also have a heaviness in their body on waking up, okay? But they're easygoing, right? They're very chilled in their kind of outlook and personality. They don't get angry easily, and they're usually the ones who stay away from those confrontations, okay? Now, if their coldness and moistness in their body went to excess, the kind of things that they would experience would be like getting a cold often, right? They would tend to have like a mucousy cough, pneumonia, sore throat, fluid in the eyes and the nose, and even epilepsy, okay? Right, so the last group, okay, so we had cold and moist, so now it's cold and dry, also known as the black bile temperament. They also are on the skinnier side, and a bit more than you would say that the previous category, okay? A narrow chest, they tend to have rough, dry skin, dark hair, and it being quite curly, a dullish kind of complexion, okay? Dark even, we don't here mean ethnic background, okay? It's just that kind of tone in the skin, right? They would also have a narrow, slow pulse. Their appetite would tend to be quite irregular, okay? They are kind of like a shy person, maybe even like awkward sometimes, but they're very good in terms of their memory. They're good with numbers. This person would sometimes tend to experience like anxiety, depression, this kind of thing, not very confident socially, right? Okay, now if their coldness and dryness went to excess, then they would experience things like depression, anxiety, irritated eyes, constipation, and an increase of urine out of this nervousness and anxiety, maybe even insomnia, eczema, and to the extent, those kind of severe mental disturbances. We're talking about like bipolar, schizophrenia, this kind of thing. Right. That was the first talk. That just kind of took us through the 4 groups. It just gave us these general characteristics of what you would find in these temperaments, right? So last week, what we kind of went through was food. Okay, I just want to really keep this short and sweet so we can get Ruqayya in just to give us the next 2 groups, inshallah. And she just mentioned how the importance of nutrition, right? Okay, we all know you are what you eat, and literally you are what you absorb. So if you're eating constantly poor quality food, that's actually going to become part of you, part of your organs, part of the vital systems inside you, right? So it's really, really important to have, the best quality that you can afford, and, the most nutrient dense, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, okay? And the way that you eat in terms of your temperament, right? The way that you would do it, it would be in terms of complementing your temperament. And Ruqayya mentioned how a person who's, say, hot and dry tends to gravitate towards foods that are hot and dry, right? And what you have to do is kind of eat opposite to that to counterbalance that heat and that dryness, okay? Okay, so for example, she mentioned the hot, moist person may suffer a lot of conditions like headaches, fevers, this kind of thing. So to mitigate that, you want foods that are going to cool you down and also dry you out, okay? And this is how you can get your health, inshallah, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, back in order. Right, so then just to quickly mention, Ruqayya, you may need to correct me over here. So the hot, dry person would need cooling and moist foods, right? So some of the things that she mentioned would be things like mussels, oysters, aubergine. I'm going to go through this list really quickly, inshallah. Sprouts, cabbage, potatoes, sauerkraut, mushrooms, green beans, green apples. And you can see a lot of these are sour, okay? Because sour foods tend to be drying. So a person who has a moist tendency would need to have sour things to counter that moisture, inshallah. Is that right, Ruqayya? Okay, I think yes.
Sorry, bad. So are you talking about the blood temperament? Would need those foods, yeah?
Blood temperament?
Talking about sanguine?
So we're talking about the hot, dry person, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the hot and dry person, they would need cooling and moistening food. So that wouldn't be sour fruits, because sour fruits are dry. So I'm not sure if I'm not sure I would say for you, but it's they need cooling and moistening food. So sour fruits.
It wouldn't be sour.
No, so sour fruits, for example, would be for a person who needs, so a person with a moist temperament, something
A
sour.
cool, moist temperament, yeah. So a person who would be a hot and dry temperament would need that, right?
No, so
a hot and moist temperament.
Moist, exactly.
Okay, got it. Right, okay, so yes, okay, so the sour ones, ignore. So are these all right? Mussels, oysters, aubergine, sprouts, cabbage, potato, sauerkraut, mushrooms, green beans, they're all right?
Yes, that's for hot and moist, yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the fruits, things like
so fruits for a hot moist temperament, it would be basically sour fruits, so any sour fruit, pineapple.
Okay, pineapple, orange, plums, etc.
Cherries.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, and the person who is hot and dry, they would tend to have foods and meats like duck, rabbit, beef. But she mentioned a thing with beef. In regards to beef, because it's quite taxing on the liver, It's not something that's recommended often. And the general principle is if the meat is kind of lighter in color, then those kind of meats would be cooling, right? And the darker colored fish and meat, so for example, like salmon, which is quite intense in its color, lamb, which is quite intense, would be heat producing, right? So that's a kind of like easy principle for us to kind of remember, inshallah. Right, okay. So the person who is hot and dry, they would also benefit from things like beans and pulses, barley, corn flour. Again, you want to source non-MGO here. Linseeds, poppy seeds, vinegar, tomato, and tamarind, right? So for a cool and moist person, they want hot and dry foods, right? So here we say duck, rabbit, beef, butternut squash, broccoli, carrots, cucumbers, squash, bitter gourd, lettuce, pumpkin, radish, sprouts, turnips, and sour fruits would be here, right? Because sour fruits are drying, okay? Yeah, so a person who is hot and dry would need, oh, sorry, hot and moist, they would need drying fruits. Cranberry, figs, kiwi, melon, avocado, watermelon, right, to counteract that heat in them, banana, macadamia nuts, pumpkin seeds, rice. I think that was basically the sum and total of what was covered. So inshallah, today we'll be looking at those temperaments that are, so we've done the hot one, so it would be cold and dry and cold and moist, inshallah. Over to you, Ruqayya.
And Jazakallah khair for your introduction and your recap as well. Just to correct, just as far as last points, so remember that hot and dry individuals, cold and moist foods, and the cold and moist food that I think I just mentioned, I think she confused it with the drying foods, so cold and dry. So cucumber, pumpkin seeds, rice, watermelon seeds, these type of watermelon fruits, bananas, avocado, these are for hot and dry person. This is a recommended food for hot dry person. Yeah, I think she just confused that. Okay, so today we're going to focus on a cold and moist individual and a cold and dry individual, and we call them the cold and moist individual, we call them phlegmatic, the phlegmatic individual, and a cold and dry individual we call melancholic individual. There are some negative connotations. People assume because the name is melancholic, they assume that means it's got negative or dark connotations. Not necessarily. We try not to. We don't believe any temperaments above other temperaments, and everyone's unique in their own way, and so is each temperament, individual temperament. So it just comes with it's just a name that's referred or named for a person who's cold and dry. Yeah. So let's start with a phlegmatic temperament. Yeah. The person who's phlegmatic is generally cold and moist. Yeah. They tend to be, as we said, flabby. Touch them. They have soft skin. They possess very personality-wise, they're very cool, very chilled. They don't like confrontation. They don't like arguments, and they just like to be cozy. Yeah. And this person generally tends to be heavy, lax. They walk very slow. When you're walking down the road with them, trying to catch the bus, they're always at the back. They're behind you, and you have to walk faster. And they just generally just chill. And this person, they tend to have a lot of moisture. Yeah, remember, it's water. When we say cold and moist, it's like water. Yeah, and they generally suffer from if they are invalid, suffer from excess moisture. So what we need to do is we need to dry the temperament, and this is and so we would recommend for them to eat dry foods that will dry excess moisture and heat. Bring heat to their body. Yeah. So we would recommend for them to eat hot and dry foods. What are the examples of hot and dry foods? Okay, Chicken is a hot and dry food. Yeah. Generally, the principle is that if the meat is lighter, so the lighter the meat or the fish, that is cooler. So chicken is part of the lighter forms of poultry or meat. However, it's still considered a hot and dry chicken. Sorry, hot and dry food. Yeah. So chicken would be an excellent form for them. Yeah. Lobster hot is excellent. It would cool, it would heat them and it would dry the excess moisture. Prawns, small bird, yeah, and it's all small bird, yeah. Oily fish like salmon, yeah. Salmon is generally hot and moist, yeah. Okay, vegetables now. Bitter gourd, celery, fenugreek, green pepper, garlic, leek, mustard, and you can see the pattern here. Yeah, these are quite hot foods. Even if you have, let's say, you just have mustard seed. Yeah, you take it out, you have a mustard seed, and you chew it. You can see, you can feel the heat. Certain foods actually come with its attributes, so that you can actually try them and you can feel them. And one of the things that we did in when I was in class, we used to actually taste the herbs and taste the foods, taste the medicine, raw. And we try to sense what we feel when we have it. Yeah. So if you take a garlic, if you chew garlic, you will get heat. You can even get burned if you keep it in your mouth for too long. So certain foods and certain vegetables or herbs, you can feel the temperature. Yeah. Watermelon, for example. As soon as you have it, it cools you down. And what does it do? You can feel the water moisture aspect of it. So some foods are quite obvious what temperature it is, and some foods obviously you need to investigate or study or find out what temperature it is. Okay, so yeah, mustard, as I said, hot and dry. Garlic, hot and dry. Onions are again, it's a hot and dry vegetable, and it's easily, you can feel that as soon as you take it in. Parsley, surprisingly, because parsley is a green vegetable, and it's a herb, so green herb. And generally, the principle, most green leafy vegetables are quite cooling. And got parsley, it's a herb, and it's hot and it's dry. Red pepper is also quite dry. Okay, fruits. So grapes is an example of a hot and dry fruit. On my list right now, I have other fruits, but I don't have other fruits at the moment. But for now, grapes, hot and dry, and fruit. Nuts, cashews, hazelnuts, pecan nuts, walnuts, and these are hot and dry nuts. So if you are from a cold and moist temperament, then these are good to balance the excess coldness and your moisture. Grains and seeds, chickpeas is hot and dry. Fenugreek seeds, ram flour, mustard seeds, poppadoms. Oh, poppadoms are in here as well. Okay, dairy products. Eggs are considered hot and moist and hot and dry, sorry, yeah? So eggs are a good dairy product or food to take in if you're from a cold and moist temperament. Oils, mustard oil. Mustard oil is a hot and dry oil. From my perspective as well, I'd say sesame oil as well. Even though it's also it's said to also be cold and dry. However, there's difference of opinion, and I think sesame oil to the hot and dry oil, but we'll see, inshallah. Spices, herbs, and seasoning. Okay, so aniseed is a hot and dry spice or herb or seed. Cinnamon, cloves, celery seed, garlic, as we mentioned, mustard seeds, nutmeg, oregano, paprika, parsley, red chili, of course. Rocket is also hot and dry. Rosemary, saffron, tarragon, fenugreek. Okay, drinks, grape juice, and a lot of herbal teas. So most herbal teas, not most herbal teas, some herbal teas are dry, are hot and dry. It obviously depends on what it is. But I'm going to go through different herbs, inshallah, in the near future. Flavorings. So pungent, yeah, pungent and bitter tastes. Yeah, they're generally quite heating, and they're quite drying as well. So it is encouraged for most people these days to try to indulge in bitter foods, because a lot of people suffer from because of the diet we've been eating. Our body does not tend to. We don't have enough bitter foods in our diet, and that affects us, especially our liver, because the liver needs bitterness in order to function properly, to elicit and trigger proper functional activity within the liver, and remove the removal of toxins, cleaning blood, and cleaning, you know, a lot of free radicals. We need to increase in bitter foods, and this is a pandemic within us. Our taste buds are used to sweet, sour, and salty things, and we don't eat enough bitters. So in general, I wouldn't say just for a hot and dry diet. So I wouldn't say just for this kind of temperamental food. I would say most of us need to start indulging in bitter foods and try to get used to it. Try to chew bitter vegetables, add that to your salads, add that to your food, in order to promote well-being and to promote functioning within. Okay, other hot and dry foods, the obvious, chili sauce, curries in general. Most curries have a lot of chili, have a lot of spices, hot spices, and these are hot and dry foods. Yeah, and if you're from a temperament that's already dry, yeah, having too much chili foods will dry you out. Yeah, it can irritate your skin. I know many people that have I know a hot and dry individual I'm thinking about absolutely right now as well, specifically one person, very hot and dry, outwardly, from my expertise, she is a hot and dry person. And I think I mentioned this last week or week before. She started getting acne, and acting up, it was like getting more pussy, and it was increasing, and had irritation, redness. And then I asked her to me, what to do about this, what do you think? And I said, have you been a lot of hot and dry food? Have you been eating something heating, anything? She goes, what do you mean? I said, have you been having chilies, like chili, cayenne pepper, and ginger, anything like that, garlic? She's like, yeah, I actually started doing this thing every day, ginger and garlic. And she goes, how did you know? And I said, because your skin is irritated, you seem to be dried out. And that's an example. She started eating foods that were too drying, and affected her as a bad. And she updated me. She stopped having that. It calmed down her skin, and acne reduced. Yeah. So having too much of a certain temperament, a certain food, a certain temperament, that works against your body. Like if you're already trying hot and dry foods, this can affect you. So it's all about balancing that equilibrium. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move on to melatonin temperament. So that is a cold and dry temperament. What should they be eating? Okay. They should be consuming hot and moist foods, and this is the opposite of their temperament. And as Fari mentioned earlier, we're choosing the opposite foods that have the opposite temperament of yours. Why? Because we need to maintain body temperament and eat foods that are opposite in order to keep it in check. Yeah. Okay. What are examples of hot and moist foods? Yeah. Okay. In terms of meat, we would say goat, goose, lamb, liver. And remember, liver. So this is the liver of the organ. Yeah, organ meat. Many cultures, even my culture, we have liver. Like sometimes we have for breakfast with sort of like a flat pancake. This is something that culturally, I don't think it was to do with medicine. This is culturally. They would say if they see you looking dried out, weak, they would say, you need to have liver. You're too dry, and they probably historically learned that, or it could just be embedded in the culture, but it does make sense. Liver is fleshy, It's very moist. It's got a lot of blood. And people that are anemic in our culture, if you don't have blood, if your iron's low, they say have some liver. Yeah, this is the liver, the meat liver has a lot of blood, and it's quite fleshy and it's moistening. Yeah, so if you're a cold and dry person, have liver quite and try and keep it back to your diet. Yeah. Okay, so liver, mutton, yeah, turkey. In terms of vegetables, we would say artichokes, asparagus, chives, ginger, olives. And remember, guys, I forgot to mention that certain spices like ginger, when they're on their fresh form, yeah, so fresh ginger, it's still hot, it's still warm, it's a warm hot food, but it's when it's fresh, because it's got its moisture, it's hot and moist. Yeah. When ginger is powdered, it becomes dry because it's dried up, isn't it? So it's hot and dry. Yeah. So if you're from, for example, a cold and dry temperament, and you want to increase your heat and increase your moisture, choose fresh ginger as opposed to powdered ginger. So choose the fresh version of the spices. Yeah, it's just something that we incorporate in herbs. We try to choose or trying to do a nutritious regime for a person, a client. We'd say, okay, we want dry temperament. Instead of having powdered ginger in food, get fresh ginger. Yeah. Yeah, that's just a side note. Okay, so yeah, so we'd say ginger, olives, yeah. Olives is quite hot and it's quite moist, so warm, let's say, it's not too hot, it's warm and moist. And different foods have different degrees of its temperature. So it can be hot to the first degree, the second degree, so on and so forth. So certain foods are hotter. They might be in the hot category, but they have different types of heat. Yeah. Okay, so squash, spring onion, sweet potato, turnips. So these are hot and moist vegetables. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna move on to fruits. Dates. Dates is considered a hot and moist fruit. Fresh dates, especially fresh dates, are hot and moist. Yeah. When they're dried out, they become, I believe, hot and dry. Okay. Guavas, mangoes, peaches, papaya, and if you've noticed, guys, these moist, like hot and moist, fruits, for example, they're quite abundant, and they're quite abundant in hot countries, and it makes sense because most people from countries, but generally have hot temperaments or might have dry temperaments, and these type of fruits like papaya has a lot of moisture in it, doesn't it? So this will increase the moisture. Okay, nuts, almonds, Brazil nuts, pistachios, apricot, yeah, grains and seeds, bread, bulgur, flour, pasta, rye bread, sunflower seeds, wheat. Yeah, these are cold and moist foods. Yeah. So let's move on. Dairy products. So condensed milk is considered to be hot and moist. Cheese, not all cheeses, but some cheeses are considered to be hot and moist. Mother's milk, yeah, breast milk is considered to be hot and moist as well. Okay, oils, clarified butter. Yeah, ghee is actually hot and moist. Butter, so butter is cold and moist, but ghee is hot and moist. Yeah, so ghee is very warm and very moist. So farro butter, castor oil, hot and moist. Olive oil is one of ones, hot and moist. And sunflower is hot and moist as well. Okay, spices, herbs and seasoning. Bay leaves, black pepper, cayenne pepper, dill seeds, dried, fresh ginger, not red, fennel, watercress, white pepper, drinks. So green tea, yeah, green tea, hot water, water. The fruit, the juices of the fruits that we discussed, yeah. So the juices of the guavas, mangoes, peaches, etc. Honey is warm and moist. Molasses is warm and moist. Yeah, okay, yeah. Sugar would be very warm and moist. Um, what else? Okay, yes, chocolate is considered to be warm and moist. Licorice is considered to be warm and moist. Vermicelli, brown, or wholemeal, basically wholemeal flours as well, since we almost like bran flakes, for example, being warm moist. Or oats would be considered more warm and moist as well. So these are foods that a person who is melancholic should begin and should use to counteract their temperament. Also, other forms of warm and moist diets would be like broth, yeah. And depending what you put in the broth as well, does make a difference. But they would be considered broth would be an excellent thing for excellent tool to use to increase your warmth and increase your moisture as well. And inshallah, I will be working on certain recipes and foods that we can incorporate and that goes in line with nutrition as well, inshallah. So that we can kind of modernize and try make this practical so we can all, inshallah, indulge and start using it in our kitchen and start using it to advance our temperament. There are certain symptoms and illnesses that people may have, may be associated with certain temperament. And once you understand that, you can use your food and your diet to counteract those symptoms. Yeah, so we nip it in the bud with our food, with our nutrition. Unfortunately, I'm short of time today. I'm going to have to go for it. I was going somewhere today, but I hope it's clear. For those who are on Zoom, I apologize if my voice hasn't been clear enough. Inshallah, in the near future, I'm going to be working on using better devices, but I hope that everything's clear today. Thank you, Farid, for recapping, introducing me, and thank you for all the listeners. And inshallah, I hope to work on helping the community and coming up with more practical steps to better our health, inshallah.
Barakallah fiki, Ruqayya. Always a pleasure to have you, and your insight into that is amazing. Allahumma barik. I mean, it just reminds me of so many things of, how easy it is for us, alhamdulillah, in the times that we are, to make ourselves better. And what easier way do we have than doing that, with the food that we eat every day, and these kind of, snippets of knowledge that we can take, is so beneficial. We can use it bi'idhnillah ta'ala, and that's why I'm very passionate about getting ladies on here, moms, those of you who are single, those of you who even children are older, just to like educate yourselves bi'idhnillah ta'ala, learn how to look after yourselves in terms of your health, because it's the greatest blessing you have, alhamdulillah. When you have your health, you have everything. So let us make use of what we have, and get this ilm bidillah, because when you know this, you can pass it on to your children, inshallah. And let's preserve the health that we have before it gets to a point where we become sick and now we have to really focus on it. Prevention is better than cure, alhamdulillah. And some things that Ruqayya mentioned, I hope it was clear for everyone, in terms of and this is what I love about Unani Tibb. It just makes so much sense, and it's very, very personalized. So look at what's around you. From the sunnah, even we're encouraged to eat seasonally, eat what's in your land. Now, it doesn't make any sense. Think about it. You're in the middle of winter, freezing cold. No one in their right mind even feels like eating watermelon, or even things like bananas. It's from a hot climate that's going to be available during the heat, even strawberries. And if you buy organic produce, you'll tend to find you won't even get them, right? That's why it's so important to eat locally grown and in season, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. It's so beneficial for the body, alhamdulillah. Ladies, I will, inshallah, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, be hosting mistakes related to detoxing and cleansing yourself very soon, inshallah, and hopefully have a 5-day reset available for you all, inshallah, where, you know, I know we're all busy and I know we have so many things to do. So this is going to be literally catered for you from the very beginning to the very end. I'm talking about complete guide here, step by step, with support, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. So please, follow myself and Ruqayya. If you're on Clubhouse, click on our names and give us a follow. You'll find me on Instagram at the Healthful Wellness Coach. So the @ Healthful Wellness Coach, and you will find Ruqayya, and her handle is at the Serenity Clinic. She has her own clinic in North London, where she does hijama, where she's able to take you through your own temperament with the ta'ala and give you a consultation, advice, tips, you know, what you should eat, what you should avoid, etc., etc. So she did tell me last week as well, she does do online consultations if you're not in the UK. And she's able to really help you out in that regard. So you're more than welcome to reach out to her or to myself for any further information that you like. And this will be recorded, inshallah. Please do catch up the recording if you joined late on my YouTube channel, which is, the name is Organic All Round. So subscribe and you know, catch up on all the previous bite-sized and health information that we've put out there. If there's any questions, because what we're planning to do, inshallah, for the next session is really get into the practical side of things. So like take you through the day, basically from breakfast to dinner, inshallah, and, you know, let you know how you can eat according to your temperament, and, you know, what things you can, because obviously, right, same with you and me, we have families, we have children. Now, I'm not going to be able to cater to 4 different temperaments in my house, you know, with my 4 kids. I'm not going to be able to make 4 different meals. That's just impossible, even 2, right? So how can we take, say, that 1 bowl of oats that you're going to make for breakfast? How can you now cater that to all the temperaments of your kids? That kind of thing. Yeah, so inshallah, we'll be giving you tips, practical advice for that, so you don't want to miss it. It'll be the same time next week, inshallah, Saturday, 6 p.m. UK time, 9 p.m. KSA time. And I, inshallah, look forward to seeing you there. And if you do have questions, you're more than welcome to send them to me via the chat, or, you know, on WhatsApp, or however it's easier for you. I've got some questions from last week. Qadar Allah, she had to leave early today. And yeah, inshallah, I'll see you all then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If there's any questions or concerns, you're more than welcome to ask now. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.